Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my Thursday live stream where we talk about photography and what's new and what's been happening as usual. I hope everyone's doing well. Um, Sorry, I'm a little tired today. I was up late last night. I don't know, sometimes when you get into making a video, just time flies. And I was up till like almost 3 in the morning to crank out a video on a question somebody had asked me that I need to get back to. But I just put out this self timer video, and it's something that I was a little surprised I had to make because in the EM1 Mark III, I used to be able to use the custom self timer for my auto exposure bracketing. So I'm going to kind of miss that a little bit. Hopefully they can bring that back. It seems like if the EM1 Mark III could do it, why not the OM1? And what I'm talking about is, you go into auto exposure bracketing and you push the shutter button and it starts taking the pictures right away. And, you know, whenever you do bracketing, you want to try to minimize any kind of camera shake or motion and not have to touch the shutter button. And of course, there's always the option to use a remote shutter of some kind. But even the app, as far as I understand it, the bracketing features are disabled. I have to double check, but that's something I think they need to put back in. So I made this video because there is sort of a workaround. You can use the silent shutter wait time setting to effectively get a delayed shutter. But the custom timer, particularly for auto exposure bracketing, was much more useful because then you could have almost a completely hands-off operation where you just push the shutter button once and then the camera sequences all of the bracketed shots. So that's something I kind of miss. And the more I dig into the menus to try to answer individual questions, the more things I see that could be probably grouped a little better. So I'm just curious. I mean, the old Olympus menu was fine. I got good at it. So just like anything, no matter what the menu system is in a camera, you'll get good at it. Like I remember when I shot Nikon forever, I thought it was the best menu ever, after I learned it. And, same thing with the Olympus. Once I got used to it and learned it, I was really happy. And then, the OM1, same thing, right? It's kind of a different menu structure in a lot of ways. But I kind of question, if they did go through the trouble of revamping everything, there's certainly some loose ends, in my opinion, that should be tidied up a little. Fortunately, they have the My Menu that sort of groups things that work better for the way I think about things. So we have that, and then the ability to save those settings into the phone. The phone app is nice. I'd rather be able to save more in camera rather than separately into the phone. For example, my Panasonic S5 has several customized. I think, man, like a dozen or so. I mean, they're virtual. The first few I think are on the dial or something. I mean, I don't use the Panasonic that much, but I do remember there was several custom settings, and that would be nice. It seemed like that'd be an easy thing to do. So add more customized settings because we have 4 on the dial, but why not like 8 or 12 in the camera itself? Because we use these cameras, at least I do, for a lot of different things, and 4 is not really enough for me to address everything I want to do. And I hate using apps to to expand the functionality of the camera. So anyway, I don't want to rant or anything about it. Like I said, I'm tired, so I'm not in the best mood for some. Woke up on the wrong side of bed kind of thing, right? Oh, let me close off so I can see the chat. I'm sorry. The whole reason I'm here is just so I can talk to you guys. The menus need a Google search feature. That's funny. And then System Natura says, intend to continue using the EM13 for the majority of focus bracketing stacking. Works great with the 60 macro. Really? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it it works fine. I mean, when you're doing macro photography, you're always going to optimize your lighting or be in optimal lighting anyway. Otherwise, it's very difficult to do decent macro, right? Unlike a night scene or different kinds of photography, you can get away with post-processing a lot and fixing it. But macro is a little bit harder to fix lighting issues and stuff in post-processing because the details are so fine. And that's the whole point of macro, right? Is get those very, very fine details. So it's if you have 10% of the image or whatever slightly off because of poor lighting, the whole thing doesn't look right? I see Marco's here. Marcia, good to see you. Ooh, still waiting for your OM1. Wow. That's rough. David Black, John Follows. Yeah, it's hot here today. I think we're going to hit like 90 degrees. Which is a little warm. I mean, I don't mind it. I like warm weather, so I'm fine. But when we get closer to 100, that's when it gets a little prohibitively hot, to do anything. Plato is first. Okay. Oh, three-leg. Let me look at what that is. A three-legged thing. You guys talked about that last week, and I didn't really have any idea what that was. Three-legged thing. Let me see. Wow, they have some here really. $800. Hold on. You guys probably can't see this. Wow. 800. Well, this one's cheaper. Which one did you get, Andrew? I'm just curious because there's so many. So there's a leveling base. So that came free, I guess. Tripod by use. So let's say landscape and architecture. Oh, that's cool. I mean, most tripods do that anyway. So our landscapes are designed to give you stability, base of the camera, terrain, 3 sections. Thicker 3 sections. So they got carbon fiber stuff. They got, so I assume it's a carbon fiber tripod. Okay. Well, I like that. I like that it has, you got the leveling base. That really helps with doing panos. Always dropping things. But this is a like you can't see me. Hold on. So this is a third-party leveling base, right? This is a newer. And basically, a leveling base, all it does is, once you have your tripod down on the ground, you can level it almost perfectly with one of these because it moves independently of the tripod legs, right? And then for panos, I would put this on top, and this has notches and degrees. So I would set up maybe what do I have this set up to? I have this set up to something somewhere in the middle, like 30 degree rotation. And I used to really try to what's the word I'm looking for? I used to really try to maximize, my panoramas so that they would align perfectly. And I had this set for 45 degrees. So I must have been this, when I set it to 45, it's more like I'm doing 360 type shots. And this kind of hardware, I mean, the leveling base will always have a place, right? But this pano head, I don't know, I haven't used this at all because the stitching software is so good now, and you just have to, you can almost do panos handheld now, right? I mean, cell phones have been doing it forever, but you can do panos even with a regular tripod. And if you have a leveling base on top, this is really all you need. This and a bracket so you can get the nodal point correct if you want to be even more precise. And so I haven't used these in a while. I haven't done panos in a while. I should get back into that. I've just been doing them handheld, click, 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 and then stitching them. And the software does a good enough job because I don't need that precision for the kind of landscapes I do, right? But if I really wanted to do it perfectly, you need these kind of tools. You need the rails so you get the nodal point right. You need the leveling base, and then this actually speeds up when you have one of these clickable tripod heads, right? That stops at certain angles along the along the horizon, right? The horizontal plane. It saves a lot of time actually, because you just take a picture, click, take a picture, rotate, take a picture, rotate, and it rotates perfectly at each angle. So if you're serious into panoramas, actually this is a really handy tool. If you're not that serious into it, you don't need to bother. You can just do it manually, right? But it's a pretty handy tool. And yeah, but there's just not a lot of opportunities where I live for any interesting panoramas, so to speak. Now, what's really cool, and I think is maybe even the future of doing panoramas and 360 type images, is the DJI Ronin, and it started, I believe, with the RSC2. That's the one I'm looking at now. But it's a gimbal, and the phone app basically, you can set it up to do the pano or to do the 360, and it'll rotate the camera automatically and take the pictures as needed. Then you can upload this into whatever 360 pano software you use. I think P2GUI is pretty popular, but there are others as well. And I thought about doing that for my real estate architectural business, right, where I could do high quality 3D virtual tours. If I had this gimbal and I put my camera on there, and the gimbal is compatible with the Olympus and OM Systems cameras, so it'll rotate the camera, take the picture all on its own. And that would be amazing, right? I just don't have any clients that are willing to pay for it. And when I look at their websites and the listings that they have, none of them do 3D virtual tours. So it's not just me, right? It's like whoever, because they don't just use me sometimes, right? They have other photographers they use, to my dismay. But they they're more into and the reason they use these other photographers because they do drone work, and you have to go pretty far out from here to do any kind of drone work. But it's something I've thought about. Then I don't know, just the fact of buying a drone and then not. I mean, I have a drone. I've never learned to fly it, but just the fact of that I'd have to go like almost 25, 30 miles out of this area before I'd even be allowed to use a drone. And then that work in of itself is so rare. I'd never pay for a drone. Um, but $300 gimbal to do the 360 panos, one or two jobs would pay for that, right? Because most photographers they add on $100 to $200 to do a 360 for a standard property. But I my clients just wouldn't do it, and I know they don't do it because none of their listings have any 360 work on them. So anyway, the three-legged thing looks like a nice tripod. A little pricey, but usually in these kind of things, in most things, really, you get what you pay for, right? Oh, you want to link to the Pano thing, Roberto? All right, let me find it. I've had this thing for like, man, maybe 6 years, 7 years or more. What is this thing called? Let me just type in Pano. Oh, it's still available. Oh, it's not available. Let's see if there's any alternatives in the. Here's an alternative. It looks pretty much the same. It's $50. That's about what I paid. All right, what do they call this? Rotating panoramic indexing ball head. All right. All right, there's a link. That's the USA site, but this is what you need to search for. Where's my screen? Yeah, this thing. Here's a closer look at it, right? This looks identical to the one I have, except it has a red button instead of a blue button. And this is, you put this, it looks complicated, but it's not. What you do is you unscrew this red screw and you screw it into the angle that you want to use. And then that's it. So you really don't need to even bother with the degree lines down here. But yeah, it's pretty handy. I also mine came with this I'm not 100% sure. But I have an Arca Swiss plate on top of mine that I don't see on this one. Let me see. Here's the one I ordered. It says October 2016, so I've had this thing almost 6 years. Yeah, mine came with a Arca Swiss plate too. So this one does not. And there's the ball head, or I'm sorry, the leveling base. What do they want for that? Another $50. And yeah, this is So what you also need to get one of these, right? So that you can slide the camera so you get the perfect nodal point. So make sure you get that. You really need all three of these things, right? You need the leveling base, the rail, the Arca Swiss plate. It adds up, man. You're going to be out like 150 bucks by the time you're done. But I bet if you shop around, you'll find a combination that's a little cheaper overall. I kind of piecemealed mine, like you see here. I bought the rail separately, and the indexing pano head separately, and the leveling base all separate. And yeah, that was probably the most expensive way to do it, because you can get. Let's see what this panorama head costs. Oh, they have mechanical ones. I'm sorry, electronic ones. But that's for a GoPro. That's not going to support a camera. These are $100, 120. Yeah. I mean, these are more for like doing 360 type panos, right? These pano heads. But yeah, when you start adding all that stuff up, all of a sudden, just doing it manually makes more sense, right? You could just get all you need is like that $20 rail, right? They have cheaper ones. That one was a little bit longer than you probably need, because, we use micro four thirds, right? Um, you could probably get away with just a $20 rail and just manually turn it yourself. Just use the grid lines inside the camera. But again, if you're doing it all the time, this definitely is pretty handy and really makes quick work of doing panos. But you can really only do horizontal panos. The gimbal thing over there for 120 bucks will do 360 panoramas. And honestly, for another couple $100, like you get a gimbal, an Ronin RS2C or whatever it's called, you can do a fully automated, panos and 360 panos. So I think if you're very hardcore, that might even be a better way to go. Is just get a full on legit gimbal. And the Ronins are compatible with the Olympus cameras, so it'll even push the shutter button for you through the app. So it's pretty cool. I think Ben over there at the Narrowband channel, he bought the new one, the RS3 Ronin. He loves it, and he's already doing some 360 panos with that. You end up with like 25 images for a 360 panel, depending on the lens you're using. But the stitching and everything should be perfect, right? If it's going to be that precise and make those many images. Because I could do a 360 panel like in 12 shots, right? You do about 8 on the horizontal axis, and then you do 1 up and down, and you're done. Assuming you're using like a fisheye lens, like the 8mm fisheye, I could probably do a 360 panel in 8 shot or 10 shots, maybe 12. And I see a question here from Ben. Or I'm sorry, Bailey Boy. I was just talking about Ben. I meant to say Bailey Boy. Question regarding long exposure photography with camera on a tripod and I'm sorry. One of these days I'm going to get a bigger monitor. With the camera on a tripod and all other vibration controls in place, would you recommend turning off the IBIS or just leaving it on? I would turn it off. There's just no need for it if you have everything set, like silent shutter, sturdy tripod, because you introduce the potential for the camera to shift the sensor even when nothing's moving, right? So it's best practice to turn off the IBIS. It's especially true if you're going to be doing bracketing or multiple shots, right? And then stacking those long exposures together like in astrophotography. The IBIS, the sensor moves independently, and it could be just off a little bit. Like it may not move, the sensor may not move while it's taking the image, but if you take a second image, it might move in between that time, just a few pixels in any direction, and it's going to affect your overall image quality. So locking or turning off the IBIS. When you turn off the IBIS motors and everything actually stay on because it has to hold, because the sensor inside is on like a magnetics, right? So it has to stay on to hold the sensor in place. But once that sensor is held in place, either magnetically or however it's done, the IBIS is turned off. Then, when you go shot to shot to shot, there's no potential for any kind of shift in the sensor's position relative to the camera. So yeah, turn it off. If you're just doing one-offs where you're just, taking a click, I don't bother. I just leave IBIS on. Mostly because I'm not 100% sure about the stability of my tripod and everything else. I'm not putting an effort in, right, to do a long exposure. I'm just doing it for fun. Then I leave it on because then I'm not as careful with all of the things that you would do when you're trying to get a stable shot. But if you're absolutely methodical and take time with your long exposure photography, then yeah, turn IBIS off and you'll get better results, particularly if you're stacking images. And Druid says, I should just leave these on. Have a question for your white balance video. When I do macros, sometimes there's a lot of green. What color LED light should I use to balance out the green cast? Red. use a red or magenta to offset it. So anytime you're trying to offset a color, and this is how white balance works in your camera, right? Is it uses the complementary color to offset the primary color. So how it does it all digitally in the camera. And you're probably if you're going to use an LED light, I honestly wouldn't get into using colored lights for macro. I mean, I'm not a macro expert. Maybe it's common to use colored lights, but my approach would be to shift the white balance in the camera. And you can do that, right? You have the A and B. If you go into your white balance settings, you'll see an A column and B column, and one is like the amber and green, which is basically shifting between green and red. And then you have the B column, or G, I'm sorry, G. Anyway, go in and shift your white balance. I'm not an expert at it because I never shift my white balance in camera. And of course, you can always do it in post-processing too. But if you're trying to go for a straight out of camera image, like you can do with built-in focus stacking in our cameras, it's probably easier to shift the white balance settings. So just practice on a few shots for color purposes, so you get a feel for how much you would need to shift the amber green slider in camera, and then once you have that set up, then you can continue. Because and I would do that for each shot because the lighting changes dramatically from shot to shot, particularly with macro, right? Because it's a very small area. So it's probably better to shift it in camera rather than bring a colored light of some kind, because you're spending money on a single color when the next shot you take might be the bug on a yellow flower, right? So how do you offset that? Those are my thoughts anyway. I hope that makes sense. If anyone has better idea, go ahead and feel free to chime in, which is because like I said, this is not really my area. What I should do, I don't have the ideal studio space here. I thought I did, but it's not. Oh, music Soundguard's gonna head off. Okay. Yeah, work. And Terry says, I sold all my Olympus gear. So EM1X, EM1.2, the 300. Wow, everything. F4. So you had you had everything. More than I do in a lot of ways. All except the Pen F, and I'll buy 17 and keep for travel. Okay. So you just sold it? Did you replace any of that gear? I mean, did you switch to another system altogether, or you just got rid of your stuff? um, I mean, keeping the Pen F is kind of a no-brainer. That's such an awesome camera. I, I don't think, yeah, if I had to give away or sell everything I had, it would definitely be everything except the Pen F, um, if at all possible, right? So I'm with you on that. Oh, you went with the Hasselblad 503CW. Nice. Nice. It's it's a newer version of mine. I have the 500C, the original. But the CW, I guess, is has the better screens for a cleaner image, and there were some minor changes in the mechanics, I hear. Uh yeah, that's an awesome camera. I really envy you in that sense. And I assume you got the 80 millimeter Zeiss lens with it, right? Um, something about a fully mechanical camera, whether it's like a Hasselblad or an OM1, the original film OM1. There's even the original OM1 had a light meter in it, but it was still a fully mechanical camera, right? It's something very satisfying about it, and the sound of that Hasselblad shutter, because it's huge, right? Is something else. I need to take mine out. I got a couple of rolls I need to burn off. Some, and I think I got some Tri-X 400, and then I also have some other Ektar or something, a slide film. And that's gonna be interesting using a slide quality. Let me see what it is. I can't remember exactly. Yeah, this is it. This is my 500, which man, this is the camera. It's just it's like I would say this is even nicer looking than my Pen F, and the Pen F sets the bar pretty high for me. This is Ektachrome 160T 120. I keep it in the fridge. I don't know why. They say it'll last longer in storage that way. But ooh, damn it! Oh, good thing there's no film. I accidentally released the film plate. I guess you can't release it without the dark slide in front. Uh, so they thought of everything in the 50s or whenever this was made. You're able to tell the date that it was manufactured by the serial number. So if you got a nice one with all matching serial numbers and you got that nice view screen in it, I forget what it's called. It's one of those view screens that everybody goes for. I don't have that. I have the original, and unfortunately, the original 500, the screens are not easily. The screen itself is not easily replaceable. It's just four screws, right? But supposedly, if you do it yourself, you have to know what you're doing, because you have to align the screen with the back plate so that you get accurate focus. I saw somebody online do it themselves, and they didn't have any kind of alignment tools. They just did it, and they were perfectly happy with it. So I've been thinking about doing it, but then I said, you know what? I don't use this enough to worry about it. And what I could do is just replace the body itself. I can still use my film plate and my lens, and replace the body with one that has an interchangeable screen. If I really wanted to do it, that would probably be the easier way or the safer way to do it for me. But I have to fix some light leaks I have in this thing. I have some there's light seals inside around this film back, and I got a couple light leaks in my last roll that I didn't notice before. So the light has to kind of hit it a certain way, and then it gets in there. That's cool, man. Congratulations. That Hasselblad is they are amazing cameras. Yeah, blue for yellow, basically. But like I said, you can shift the white balance in camera with the A and G sliders. And Wally says, I'm going to be using the TG6 for some street photography. Any suggestions? Was going to use A on 2.8. Is it worth changing the exposure slightly? No. I tested my TG5, which is the same camera for all intents and purposes. And there is a physical aperture blade inside these cameras. It's not a digital like aperture setting. There's actually physical aperture blades. And in theory and in practice, most of the time, stopping the lens down slightly, because it's an f2 lens in the TG5 and 6, stopping it down to 2.8 will give you marginally sharper image, but you have to really pixel peep, okay? And the problem is the sensor's so small. It's one of those 1/2.3 sensors. One stopping it down from 2 to 2.8, if you have to raise your ISO by one stop because you need the shutter speed, any gain you get going from f2 to f2.8 is lost due to the noise. Because when that camera gets to ISO 400, it starts destroying the details. So particularly in low light. Right? So if you're shooting during the day in good light at ISO 100, which is the base ISO on that camera, shoot at f2.8 all day long. You'll get slightly sharper images. The other thing I recommend, and I need to test this again, but turn the sharpening down at least one level. I think it'll go 2 levels, but turn the sharpening down. Now, that's only supposed to affect the JPEGs. But for some reason, I noticed when I have the sharpening at different levels, it's impacting the raw image somehow. And it's very subtle, right? You have to pixel peep to see it. It's very subtle. But I feel like the sharpening control and the contrast control is having an impact on the raw image. So, but don't quote me on that. Test for yourself and see if that's happening to your images. But I remember noticing that the sharpening was impacting the quality of the raw image, meaning I started getting artifacts from over sharpening in my raw images. Might have just been me. I don't know. But check for that. But yeah, so 2.8 to f2.8 definitely sharpens the image. I wouldn't go beyond that. And if you're shooting in good light at ISO 100, maybe 200, I don't even like ISO 200 on a TG5 or 6. I would stick basically at ISO 100 and then see if you can manage, motion blur and all of that stuff through the shutter speed best you can. Get a tripod. If you put that camera on a tripod and set it to base ISO and f2.8, you get really, really nice images in RAW. And then on top of that, you can import it into, if you have Photolab 5 Elite, like I do, that has all the optical corrections and things with noise reduction and stuff. Man, I mean, other than depth of field, you'd never know that camera, that you were getting images out of that camera like as good as anything else, in my opinion. I could show you one I'm actually kind of proud of that I took with that camera. Let me get past all this crap. Wow, was it that long ago? Yeah, it was last year. Okay. Oh, here it is. I'll put a link to it so you can look at it. Here's a link to that. This image here. I took this with a TG5. It was handheld. Let me just double check. I shot with my Panasonic. Yeah, this is my TG5. I was at f2, ISO 100, 1/125th of a second. So I had plenty of shutter speed for this focal length. But I did that because think about it, if I went to f2.8, right, my shutter speed would have to be 1/160th. And even though in theory that's workable, right? That's supposedly okay. I know that my hand holding at 1/60th of a second, I almost always get camera shake in my images. You can see it. And the TG5, as far as I know, does not have real IBIS. I think it's a digital IBIS. But yeah, check that image out. That one was really good. I think, are there any notes here? Yeah. Yeah, this came out really good. And I used Photolab 5 to process this. So that accounts for some of the reason this is so nice, you know. Okay. Oh, Randy's here. Hey, Randy. Tried your hand at Milky Way out in the desert with a tracker. Photos were okay. Okay. Well, you know, Ben over at the Narrowband channel, he'd be happy to help you out. Just leave a comment on his channel, on any of his videos, right? And give him your email address. I'm sure he'll be happy to help you. Okay, thanks, Wally. Yeah, I try. You know, I've done a little bit of everything. I'm not an expert at anything. You know, the old adage, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. But you know, I'm just like you guys, a guy with a camera, right? Now I got many cameras, but I try everything. I like doing everything. It's just very exciting to me to try new things and see if I can do these kinds of images. And you know, the hard stuff. Astro's the most challenging, like Randy was doing with the tracker and all of that stuff. You stacked 10 1-minute exposures. Wow. Okay. Well, if you have a dark sky, that might be enough. But you know, you have to create your whatchamacallit. You have to get really into it. You know, you need to get your dark, what do they call it? your darks, your lights, your neutrals, and then Ben has that. If you watch his video on how he sets up his Olympus cameras for Astro, I think he talks about that a little. Let me tell you about another camera. Well, let me check here. Oh, the photos are on Flickr. Okay, I'll check them out. I'll check them out. I'll send a link to Ben for you. You're too kind, Marco. A notch above. I try. All I can say is I try. That's all I can do. I really just want to share my passion of photography with everyone, and hopefully, and I'm like the most dry, mundane person online. I just when I watch my own videos, I'm like, God, why would anybody watch these? Honestly, when I rewatch my own videos, I put them on 2x. I speed up the playback by 2x, and then it's almost bearable. But when I'm going through my video, when I'm going through my tutorials or whatever I'm doing, I never do a script or anything. And that's probably why it takes so long, because I just sit down and I just start recording to do these tutorials and things. Because like yesterday, when I made that tutorial on using this, setting up a self timer and all, let me see. These were all my notes. Well, you can't see that. It's too bright. It's overexposed. But it's just a handful of notes here. And most of them had nothing to do with the video. These are all notes on stuff I'm going to do in the future. Because originally when I started making the video, I said, okay, I'm going to do something like Peter just did, 5 tips. But I'm not going to call it 5 tips. I'm going to call it, settings you may have missed, or whatever thumbnail that is more signature to my channel, rather than just using 5 tips and tricks. Because that's more of Peter's mantra than mine. I'm more about looking for those very obscure things, right? Like the wait timer on silent shutter. That's very obscure setting. Not many cameras use that. They use just a standard shutter mode. Yeah, I got 4 other things here I need to talk about, but I started doing the video to share with you like 5 things, right? And I did one that took about 4 minutes, and then I started doing the next one, which was what the video ended up being about, the wait timer and the silent shutter, and that was like 7 minutes, right? And I was like, okay, I'm now 11 or 12 minutes into this video, and I've only covered 2 things. I was like, all right. So I chopped off the first one, and I said, I'm just going to make this video about the self timer stuff. And then I added the little intro and whatchamacallit, just for nostalgic reasons. I picked that intro because on YouTube you need to have at least an 8-minute length to optimize the monetization of the video. And so I said, man, I'm at 7 minutes and 53 seconds. I need 7 more seconds of video just to get over that 8-minute mark, right? So if you're looking at all these YouTube videos, you see a lot of them are right at the 8-minute mark or 10-minute mark. It's because it used to be a 10-minute window where if your video was 10 minutes or longer, it was optimized for monetization, right? Now they reduced that to 8 minutes. So I said, oh, I need 7 more seconds, right? So I put that little intro in that I used to use like 4 or 5 years ago. And it's funny because I got so many likes on that video because I put in the video, click the like button if you remember this intro. And that video's got like a 20% like ratio or something ridiculous, which is really high. Usually it's 4 or 5% of my videos, and this was like 5 times that. So that was good to see. A lot of my viewers still remember that. And then I was 1 second short I was like at 7 minutes and 59 seconds. I was like, all right, so what do I do now? I need one more second of video. And it's already kind of, the video is already kind of long for what it covers, right? Setting up a silent wait time on the camera should only take about 30 seconds to show you how to do that. And typical Rob Trek fashion, I'm 8 minutes into the video to talk about this one simple feature. But so I put in that another ending. I used to put this on the end of a lot of my videos about that's still, what's it called? The time lapse. Yeah, doing the time lapse where I'm walking around my backyard. So then I ended up at 8 minutes and 30 seconds, and I was like, okay, perfect. Just to let you know what goes through the mind of a YouTube creator. You think about content, you think about monetization, right? Trying to make an extra penny, and then how can you add something? How can you add some filler in here just to get over that 8 minute mark, right? uh You're funny. My notes are about as rudimentary as Lauren is saying. And Thomas says, kudos on your new tutorial series, honed with newer production values and live stream conversations. I'm trying. I don't know why after all these years I'm not able to just sit down and crank out a video every single day, which was my goal this past week, because my channel is taking kind of a dip in terms of subscribers and views and money, right? And not and that's never been the motivation, right? But when you've been doing this so long, it's a little disheartening to see all your work just start to trickle off, right? And it's just the way things are. Things have to change all the time. But I put all this work in over the years, and now I'm getting like half what I was getting last year, and last year was half what I was getting the year before. So it's like, I mean, and I'm exaggerating a little. It feels like half. It's not quite half, but the viewership and the subscriber base, not the base, but the new subscribers, um, and the number of views and the number of videos I produce have all taken a dip. And I attribute that mostly to I haven't been creating enough videos, like content for beginners, like I'm kind of known for on YouTube, meaning the YouTube algorithm will show my videos more to new photographers or photographers looking for how-tos, right? Beginning photographer stuff. So when I put out a video for beginning photographers, I have a little bit more credibility in the algorithm, so my videos come up more. And that's the key to really growing on YouTube is you need to be an authority on something. And then your videos start to get seen more. And if you're doing a good job, your channel should grow, right? So yeah, I was looking at, I was like, it was in the middle of June. I said, I've only made one video, and we're 2-3 weeks into the month, So I said, let me think if I can make a video every single day. So I tried. I think I've got 9 out of 10 days done, or whatever it is. And not counting the live streams, but so I actually, after this stream, I can probably crank out the videos that are still on this paper here. I can probably, because I recorded 4 minutes of one setting. I just need to do another 4 minutes of a different setting in the camera, then crank out that video. But you got to understand, like that video that I did, what's it called? Not the one I just put out this morning, but the one the day before. I can't even remember what it was. Best settings for beginners or something on the OM1. That video had 200. It's like a 10. Let me look. I just I just have to tell you, just to share my burden here a little bit. Get it off my chest or something. You got to share. Yeah, best settings for video for begin. Oh, it's a 29-minute video. No wonder. But that video had 285 cuts that I did not use. And then I used about, I think I ended up using about 30 cuts. So I clicked the record button 300 times to make a 30-minute video. Well, 600 times because you have to start and stop, right? But I did 300 cuts, roughly 300 cuts, and I only ended up with a 30-minute video. And the video last night, this little 8-minute video, I still have I got to show you this folder. If it comes up. Why is my folder not coming up? All right, here it is. So the 8-minute video I did yesterday, right, is so there's 120 cuts here, right? And then I ended up using 17, so I did 137 cuts just to make the video from yesterday, the 8-minute video. So whenever you watch those, whenever you watch these videos at the end where people show the what do they call it? Bloopers. That's where they pull them from, is from all the cuts they do. And being a one-man operation and not doing any scripts or anything, you end up with a lot more cuts and wasting a lot more time. You think I'd know what I was doing by now, but I really don't. When it comes to making YouTube videos, it's still a train wreck for me. But I spent about 6 hours making that little 8-minute video with all those different cuts. And usually I start and I'll start talking and I'm like, okay, let me stop. This doesn't make any sense the way I explained it. So I have to re-record it. And the problem is, the one time I used the script, I got called out on it. And they were like, I can't believe you're using a script, Rob, because it was so obvious I was using a script. And that's just not me or my channel, right? It was very obvious. People are not used to me reading from a script or using a script. So that's why I still do videos this way. I just turn the camera on and start recording. If I fumble my words, which happens a lot, I'll start talking and then I get tongue twisted because of the frickin', you know how photography is, all the terms get all twisted together. And you can't say any photography term 3 times fast, right? Aperture. How do you say aperture 3 times fast? Even that is hard. So I get tongue twisted a lot too, right? When I'm making these, so I have to cut, restart, re-record. All right, that's enough about me. That was a lot of fun. Let's see what else is going on. I can hold still like a mannequin. That's true. Let me go back up here. Maybe the decline, that may be part of it. I wouldn't say that the big push to full frame. I would just say the decline in camera business in general, right? Because if the camera business was booming or still on an uptrend, then that may help, right? With all the photography channels. And it's not just me, when you look at the stats of all the photography channels, they're all kind of taking a dip. Um, so yeah, I'm being a little harder on myself than I probably need to be, but someone called Shark on Flickr community is doing, oh, that's interesting. Doing a fantastic job on landscape. Good to know. I'll just share that. If anybody wants to look him up, well, I got my browser up, might as well. Let's see, Shark. It doesn't come up. Shark 5051. Let me change it to search for people. Oh, there he is. So let's see what he's all about. Oh yeah, nice stuff. Very, very distinctive processing here. High contrast, bold colors, right? All the trademarks of a powerful photo and composition. Looking good. Oh, I like this picnic table. Oh, and he's using Olympus. Wow, that's cool. Did he use here an 8mm fisheye? Looks like, or just 8 to 25 at f7.1. I like this photo. I mean, they were all pretty sharp, right? But I like this one mainly because it's got all your elements, right? Leading lines, symmetry, limited color palette, nice tones. Limited meaning it's a monochrome, right? Yeah, he's doing nice work. Good job, Shark. Oh, there's some infrared stuff too. What's he doing here? EM10 Mark IV. So I wonder if he converted this camera or if he's just using a filter, because this image is really way too sharp to be just a filter. I bet he converted this camera. But maybe not. Maybe he's just using an infrared filter. Wow. Okay. Nice. All right. And then Giga Colorscapes. I need to go on Saturday to Middletown to see Rob again. Last time I saw he was planning his shots at Glen Echo. Yeah, how you doing? I heard it might rain though. So the photo club's going to Middleton this week or Saturday to do fireworks, right? But it might rain, so it might get canceled. Yeah. Lauren has a bunch of suggestions here. You always have to take his suggestions tongue in cheek, right? Because I never know when he's serious or just kidding around. Oh, hey Rick, how are you? It says how to conquer the world in just 8 minutes. Should be a formula for your YouTube videos. Oh, you got to go fix an electrical problem on the rover. Have fun. All right. Nothing like working on your car, right? I mean, I remember those days. I'm very impressed, Rick, that you still work on your own car. Ugh. Yeah, COVID definitely pushed me into live streaming more. I mean, I started live streaming long before COVID, but the audience were definitely larger during COVID. Have you ever gone back to the old Evolt system just for fun? It's been 2 years since I picked up my Evolt. Maybe less than that, but it's been a while. It's been at least a year, and I still think about it time to time. But I'm kind of into my other cameras right now because the OM1 just came out, right? And and I bought this Hasselblad that kind of distracted me for a little while. I have all these distractions. I wonder if I'm trying to avoid like a real problem in my life by buying all this gear. If you want to get all psychoanalytical about it. Uh yeah, it's in my dry cabinet here. I should take it out. I get tempted to take it out time to time, but then I have so many cameras in the dry box there. I've been messing around with this Canon M50 that I bought. I haven't taken one picture with it this year until this week, right? I picked it up a few days ago and not a single image on it this year, at least in Lightroom. Last year there was one photo walk, and that's it on this camera. And I bought this mainly for my classroom. When I used to do the in-person classroom, a lot of people owned Canons, and I knew nothing about Canon, so I said, okay, let me get a small Canon camera so I can figure out how to use a Canon. So when people ask me questions, I can be more helpful. And the images are okay out of it. No, I don't really have any complaints about the image quality, but like I was talking about the menu systems before, um, this M50 has definitely been crippled. Um, I like the menus in a lot of ways, but then when I'm trying to do very specific things, it's a little bit counterintuitive. Uh, but that's because my brain is trained for Olympus menus. So switching over to that, all of a sudden now I'm like, seems counterintuitive when actually it may be the right way to do it. I didn't really analyze it that much. So I've been messing with that. I might take that out. Uh, that and I love my S5 because I got a 50 millimeter f1.8 lens, which is amazing on that camera. The images are so clean and so sharp with that 50 f1.8 from Panasonic. It's kind of inspired me to go out and take that camera more. So that one and I really love the Olympus 25 f1.8. That lens is amazing too. So I've been in this 50 millimeter field of view type thing lately. So I was actually looking for lenses for this. There's a 28 millimeter macro lens, which is a 44 millimeter equivalent. That's pretty close, but it's closer to the actual sensor size dimension thing I was talking about last week. And a 28 millimeter would give me the versatility of macro, right? And the macro lens for this camera actually has its own built-in LED lighting, right? So I was like, wow, that's a pretty versatile lens for about $300. It'll do macro. It has its own built-in LED lighting, and it's nearly the perfect focal length. The only downside was that it was an f3.5, and I'm like, man, if you buy a prime, my intent for the prime is not to do macro so much, but for that light gathering capability, right? Being at f1.4, uh, will allow me to use faster shutter speeds for sharper images because there's no IBIS in this camera. And a lot of the lenses for this camera don't have IBIS either, right? Or stabilization. So I'm thinking I get a fast prime lens so I can keep my shutter speeds up. And f3.5 ain't gonna cut it really. So I'm leaning more towards the 32 millimeter prime. It's a 32 millimeter f1.4, which is about a 51 millimeter equivalent. But that lens is almost $500. It's like $469 or something, and I'm like, oh man, do I really want to spend that kind of money on a camera I'll never use? So I was like, And then there's the Sigma 30 millimeter f1.4, but that's not a great lens. I mean, the reviews are pretty good on it, but when I compared it against the 32 millimeter from Canon, which costs twice as much, literally twice as much right now because the Sigma's on sale, I was like, man, the 32 millimeter is so much sharper. It's a much, much better lens, and it's a Canon. It's not a Sigma. It's a Canon. It's a freaking Canon lens, so I know it's going to be really good. If Canon wants to make a good lens, and they make a lot of good lenses, I think this is one of them. The 32 millimeter f1.4 prime for the M mount system looks to be fabulous. So I don't know. I'm debating that, but for almost $500, I can get a nice 4K monitor or something else that I really need, right? I can get a gimbal, the RS2 or RS3 gimbal. There's so many things I can do with $500, or I can put a tank of gas in my car. $500 goes a long way. Anyhow, which video is that? Well, the system folder of videos that I showed you was for the video I put out this morning on using the self timer. So that video took a lot. And camera channels are the hardest genre, oversaturated. Well, in yeah, there's a lot of competition out there. But this is how I look at it, right? Is there's a lot of channels out there, but there's no channel like mine, right? And just like there's no channel like yours, we all have our own voice. And, we can build our audience and our viewers that connect with us. And that's all that matters, right? Depending what your intent is, if your intent is to run the channel as a business, that's a different thing, right? But if you're building your channel to connect with your community or build a community and connect with viewers because this is your passion, you enjoy this, it's just another outlet for me as a photographer to share my experience, right? And passion for this hobby. And that's the way I look at it. So it doesn't matter how many other channels there are out there. To me, can only help me if there's more channels in some ways, right? Because it makes my voice even more unique in a lot of ways. Versus, and just like yours, or because Robert D. Donato has a channel. I love your channel too. I haven't watched anything in the past month, but everyone has their own voice. And then there's channels that are clearly run as a business, but are still good. Like I really like Frono's Photo, total channel focused, as a business. That's why he's doing YouTube. It's his business to do so. But he definitely is very entertaining, at least to me, right? I connect with him in a lot of ways. And he's entertaining, right? He just makes me laugh sometimes, just like Casey over at Camera Conspiracies. And so everyone has their own voice, and it doesn't matter to me how much competition there is. And that's why I try to be, friendly with, or are good friends with the other channels here that do Micro Four Thirds. Peter and Robin and Jimmy and Maddie and the others. I mean, Emily. There's so many, right? That there's no you don't you, there's no hopefully there's no what do you call it we don't have any we don't really have a competitive bone in our bodies, so to speak, when it comes to helping the community for Micro Four Thirds. We all have the same goal, and we want to help people get the most out of their cameras and photography. And we do mostly Micro Four Thirds, right? Some of us exclusively by contract, but generally speaking, our intent and our heart is in the right place. Just like Casey at Camera Conspiracies, very entertaining channel, entertainment channel, but I think his heart is in the right place, and he's really running it like a business. But it's okay, he does a good job. Just like Fro, total business channel, total focus on business. He's not going to put a video out on his channel that has any other intent other than to drive dollars to his business. And but that's fine. I still love his channel. And I wonder, somebody like Thomas Heaton, I get the impression he has a huge channel now, right? But I get the impression that he also runs YouTube as a business, but it didn't start out that way. I think he was definitely started his channel just to share his passion for landscape photography, and that hasn't changed. He still has a passion for it and creates content, but it's definitely his production value is much higher now. He's put a lot of effort into it. He doesn't do it like I do, where you just turn the camera on and just start to jibber jabber, right? he puts a lot more effort into it. So in that respect, that's what I mean by he treats it like a business, and that he takes it very seriously when he cranks out a video. But his soul is not changed. He's still very passionate about his craft and photography. And I wish I had the will to do that kind of production quality, right? But I can't do it. I can't climb a mountain twice just for B-roll, which he does all the time, or drive to the same spot 3 or 4 times just for B-roll, which he does a lot. I can't do it. It makes his videos much easier to watch, and there's more continuity, and you get a sense of being there with him. I mean, there's definitely the production value makes a big difference on his channel, and he takes it very seriously in that respect. But like I said, the soul of his channel, his heart is not changed, and that's why he's so popular. Because there's a lot of great landscape photographers out there, but there's very few like Thomas Heaton in the sense of being able to convey that passion and joy that he has, and then adding that production value to his, because he's a one-man shop for the most part, as far as I can tell. To be able to put all that together and create the kind of content that he does is really impressive. So lots of kudos to Thomas Heaton and all that he's done with his channel. And that's why he's so popular, because like I said, that core thing hasn't changed. And that's the only reason I think I have any viewers at all, because my content, my production value is like this compared to most people, right? And yet I have you guys. You guys are awesome. I have such a great community, and that's why I still live stream, because I can come on and just hang out and enjoy our time, right? Ooh. Anyway, that was a long commentary about competition on YouTube. Street point of view are a thing nowadays. You could practice in DC with something of a speed photography while dodging bullets. Yeah, I will definitely need a vest. I keep talking about moving. I'll have to uh, I keep in touch with some of the other channels and some of the viewers here through email and stuff, right? And I really envy sometimes what they're doing. I can't talk about it because, whenever somebody emails me something or calls me and tells me something, I always have to take that in confidence, right? But let me just say, I really envy what some of you guys are doing, and I live vicariously through some of you viewers and other channel creators that it's inspiring, right, in a way, and it gets me thinking. I should do the same thing. I should just do exactly what they did. But I got so many. I can't talk about it. I better not go there. I hate to just start jibber jabbering for 10 minutes and not say anything. You know what I mean? Which I do that enough already. Well, the Milky Way out is out already, right? Um, Definitely next month. I think it's a little higher, but it's already out. You can see it. So it's just the nights are so short, right? You don't have a lot of time to capture it. And Lauren has some comments here. The Sigma 30 has a little barrel distortion. I wonder if it's corrected in MFT cameras. It might be. Yeah, if it's not in camera, then it's definitely in software, right? I guarantee Photolab has an optical correction for it. And the Sigma 30 is a little bit large for that little tiny M50 camera. That's the other thing that was kind of holding me back. But if it was optically strong, meaning like if it was very similar, if not matching the Canon version, I would get it. I said, okay, it's a little larger, but it's half the price. But if it's a little larger and not as good a quality lens, then I'm like, that's yeah, even at half the price, I would just be wasting my money. I would never be happy. Yeah. Yeah, you know me too well, John, and I appreciate your support, John. John is he always sends me, a few dollars every now and then, and I appreciate it. Um yeah, that's the way to do it, right? When you do your astrophotography is you take pictures of the landscape that you're going to be doing the astrophotography, and then composite those back together later so you get a really nice image. It takes some planning, just like anything in astrophotography. It takes a little planning to think about the landscape, what time of day you want to take it. Blue hour generally is ideal, so you get just enough light to capture the landscape in a way without noise, right? And then it's only a couple hours away, usually 3 to 4 hours from there, you can start doing your astro. And if you're using a tracker and all of that, then you can plan on being there a few hours just to capture, right? I mean, I think about 30 minutes to an hour is about as long as you can do before things are just move too much. But I'm not a strong astro guy, so don't quote me on that one. And MFT format cameras are well suited for street. This is a point mostly missed about the format. It uses 3x2. Well, it uses a 4x3. Yeah, Micro Four Thirds uses 4x3, not 3x2. 3x2 is your standard format for APS-C and full frame. Um, well, yeah, Plato Plato's calling you out on that. It's okay. We all have a little. We always make these. I do this all the time in my videos. If you guys really pay attention, and I don't know who does, right? But if you really pay attention to my videos, sometimes when I cut to a scene where I'm not on the camera, it's because I fumbled the words and I had to re-record that part of it because I didn't want to re-record the whole thing. The minute or 2 minutes I was talking, and then I fumbled one part of it where I said something incorrect or inaccurately. Kind of like if I said, our Micro Four Thirds have a 3:2 aspect ratio, that would be a scene that I would cut and overlay another video, like a picture or whatever, and then voice overlay that part with the correct term. And if you listen carefully, you might notice the change in the pitch because you guys may not notice this, but because I do all my videos usually the same day, right? I just sit down, I turn the camera on, and I start going until I'm done usually. My voice changes from when I started, which was probably sometime after lunch, to like 12 o'clock, 1 in the morning, like 8 to 10 hours later when I finish making the video. You'll notice, and I'm talking about the tutorials, the photo walks are different, but the tutorials, a lot of times, if you play the beginning of the video and then you play the end of the video side by side, you'll definitely hear a difference in my voice and the tone of my voice. It gets scratchy or it gets deeper. It gets tired. My voice gets tired because I've been talking for like 8 hours straight trying to make a video. So you probably won't be able to tell while you're watching, but sometimes when you see a cut and the voice sounds different, that's why. It's because I had to make a correction. Yeah, I mean, you can certainly select different aspect ratios, right? In camera, and it'll crop the JPEGs permanently, and it'll crop the RAWs virtually. But you can always uncrop the raw images back in post-processing. And System says, now I have my OM1 and repaired. Oh, nice. I need to watch the OM1 tracking settings for birds in flight. Some tracking works with Pro Capture. Yes. You can watch mine. A better video to watch is Matthew Gasquet from Mirrorless Lessons. He has an awesome video on autofocus for the OM1. And he used, I believe, the 150 to 400. Maybe it was the 300 f4. His video is really good. Really, really good. So Matthew Gasquet, I have a link to it on my community post there. And I sent him $5 for that video. little small donation you can do. Like there's a thank you button or something. Anyway, I sent him $5 because he did such a good job. I wish I could send more. But that's kind of slippery slope to get into, right? If all the creators start sending each other $5 or $10 or whatever, it just kind of nets out to zero, right? Because I send him $5, he sends me $5. It's like, well, so it's best to avoid creators helping each other out like that. From my perspective, it just, so I try not to, because I would love to contribute to everybody, Robin, Peter, Jimmy, Maddie, if I could, because I think they all do amazing content. But then all of a sudden it's like, it's kind of like Christmas, right? When you start buying each other gifts and stuff. But instead of buying gifts, you all give each other just cash, right? At Christmas. Here's your card, here's my card, and you open it up and you gave each other $100 or something. You know what I mean? Like for Christmas, it's like it kind of net. So giving money, to another creator on YouTube is kind of, it's a it's a nice gesture, but it doesn't really ultimately mean anything. It's like giving cash to somebody as a gift, and then they give you cash back as a gift. It's like it doesn't work out. So I tried to thank the other creators on YouTube by uh, recommending their channel, which I think is much more, um, a much better way to support the creators on YouTube than sending them $5, right? If you're a creator, if you're a viewer, send me all your money. Just kidding. But as content creators, there's no bigger compliment or show of gratitude than recommending their channel or video on your own channel. So that's what I try to do more so than donate, doing a donation. Anyhow, that's enough of that. Oops, sorry. Oh, Brad is here. I thought I saw Brad Becker's name. That's awesome. Um, yeah, the EM10 Mark II, one of the best. That is the camera of choice for Arthur McPhee, and he's out there all the time. And he's a person can buy any camera he wants, a Leica if he wants, but he chooses the EM10 Mark II. I thought I saw a comment about. Let me go all the way back up. This was I wanted to address this too. Give me a second. I'm sorry. The stream's not frozen. I should have some like activity going on, so you guys know that I'm not like my watch ticking. You guys like this watch? It's a ripoff of a mundane uh, watch, but it's really good. It doesn't keep time very well. Like what time is it now? It's so it loses about 5 to 10 minutes a day. It's slow. It's a mechanical self winding, but it also has a winder. Is just anyhow. I can't find it now. Oh, this is about the Hasselblad we were talking about. He got a 50, the 120, and 150. Oh, okay, okay. So you've been shooting for years. All right. And then okay, this is I can't go back that far. How long have I been jibber jabbering? Man, it's already 11:30. Yeah, I agree here. EM10 with a 45. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. Oh, hey, Jose. Recommend channels is the best network for YouTube. Okay. I never think of it like that. Like I'm trying to network or gain. I don't do it for me. I do it for the viewers. If I think a creator made a good video, I'll definitely recommend it. So it's a double bonus, right? Good for the viewer, good for the creator. It doesn't really help me at all talking about other 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 if anything it's worse for me, right? If I talk about other channels in the same way. Oh, facial tick like this. Who used to do this? It was I think it was the Pink Panther and not the pink pen, not Peter Sellers, but his boss, the inspector, or what was he called, the chief? Anyway, this and the chief and Get Smart used to do this, right? um, oh, someone else asked me about the 19 millimeter in one of the comments in my video just this morning or last night. We're asking about this lens, and I told him I don't have the lens, never used it, never shot with it, but I've only heard good things about it, right? The Sigma 19, I forget what the aperture is, uh, but it's really cheap, right? Sigma 19 is not that expensive, and no one's ever told me that lens sucks. I've never heard anybody say that. Personally, I think I would get the 20 millimeter f1.7 from Panasonic. Uh, I think it's only a little more in the used market, right? But it's definitely, I know, a very good lens. Even though I've never shot with it, I've not only because it's more prevalent, right? I've heard more about the 20 millimeter f1.7 being a superb lens than I have the Sigma. But that's just because not many people have the Sigma, right? Doesn't mean it's not as good as the 20. But for my money, I would probably go with the Panasonic just for the fact that it's more prevalent. I've heard more about that lens. And then, of course, personally, I think the 25 f1.8 from Olympus is one of their best lenses, just like their 75 f1.8. Those two lenses, I think, are exceptionally sharp lenses. The 45 is excellent, but it's not as sharp, in my opinion, as the 25 or the 75. Neither is the 17. The 17 and the 45 are great lenses, but not as good as the 25 and 75. If we're just looking at just overall image quality, not ignoring focal length, right? Another lens that's optically amazing is the 8 millimeter fisheye. And I'm not saying that just because it's a fisheye, because wide angle lenses tend to look sharper anyway. But that lens, when I've compared it to other wide angle lenses, is there's no comparison between 8 millimeter fisheye from Olympus, the 1.8 Pro, to any other wide angle lens I tried. And I have the Panasonic 7-14. I used to have the I don't know. I used to have one of the other fisheyes. I've had many fisheye lenses. I've got at least two more fisheye lenses in the dry box there still, and I gave one away, and another one is busted. It doesn't work anymore, so I dropped it. But the two that I have left, plus the 8 millimeter fisheye Pro, the fisheye Pro has beat them all by far. And so I would say 8, 25, 75, three best primes made by Olympus. I have not tried the 20 millimeter f1.4. I've not tried any of the Pro lenses, the 1.2s. I've never tried any of those. But for the money, they better be damn good. If you're going to be dropping $1,000+ on a lens, man, it better be the next best thing to Leica, like, or the Zeiss Otis lenses, whatever their top of the line is. Let me see. So yeah, as far as primes go, those are it. The 8, the 25, the 75, worth every penny, even at full price. But usually you can get a discount, right? But even at full price, those lenses are amazing. And the 17 and the 45, I'd try and get a deal on those, and you usually can. You can get. I bought my 17 in mint condition for $250. I don't know what they go for now, but when I bought it, it was $250, and that was a good deal. The 45, I bought brand. I'm pretty sure I bought that brand new. I can't remember now, but it was on sale, or I didn't pay full list. I got a good deal on it. Okay, interesting. You prefer the Panny 20 and so do you prefer it because of the image quality, John, or is it because of the pancake of the Panny? That's why I would prefer it just because it's a pancake, and if there's no significant compromise in image quality, I would definitely get the 20 just for the pancake size. Um, oh yeah, the Lumix 30 f2.8 is a really good lens from Panasonic. So is the Olympus version. Because right now well, it's gone up in price, but it was on sale last week for $229, brand new. Yeah, the 7 to 14 is amazing. It's just another lens I just can't justify. It has a couple of issues for me. It's a little bit too large, and the zoom extends out when you zoom in and out. And not that it'd be a big deal on my gimbal, but there is a potential issue with using it on a gimbal because it extends out. My 7 to 14 is my work lens. I have the Panasonic 7 to 14. I never use it for my personal stuff. I use it just for work. And even though it has its problems, honestly, the 8 millimeter fisheye is better than that lens. But ultimately the workflow just, I don't know. I'm gonna have to try with DxO. I might use my 8 millimeter fisheye this next week. I was supposed to have the photo job yesterday, but they canceled or rescheduled for next week. So I might have to use the 8 millimeter fisheye for that job rather than my normal 7 to 14, just because it's a very tight space. It's a small townhouse, but they're gonna ask like $1.4 million or something. Just insane. Okay, John answered for me. Thank you, John. He says the 20 is my favorite because it's a pancake. The Sigma is larger and heavier. Yeah, it's a bigger lens, but Sigma, of course, right? I don't think it's Sigma heavy when you talk about Sigma lenses. Sigma lenses are so freaking heavy. I don't think it's in that class of Sigma, but it's definitely larger than because the Pancake 20, my God, that's nothing. It's like a lens cap. And a 20 mil f2. What 20 mil f2? I never heard of such a lens. It's interesting. Yeah, Lauren is very particular about his lenses. From all the correspondence that he exchanges with email, he emails me more than I email you back, and I apologize for that. I should respond a little bit more to you rather than just in the stream, right? Because I see in the stream every week, but your emails are really long sometimes, and I hate to just reply with a thanks or yes, or you know what I mean. I want to take the time to really go through everything. Ugh. Anyway, all the Lumix and Lumix Leica. Yeah, the Lumix Leica, the Summicron, I think it's Summicron or is it Summilux? They're Summilux, right? Leica Summilux, maybe they're Summicron, whatever. They meet a certain standard of quality that Leica allows Panasonic to use that name on it. It's always tempting to me to get like the 25-1.4 Leica for micro four thirds, but I know how good the Olympus one is that I don't know if I want to spend 300 or 400 bucks on a Leica version. And it's not a real Leica, right? Not like the APO lenses from Leica. The Leica lenses on Panasonic lenses are just really good Panasonic lenses. But the Leica lenses that Leica makes, the M mount stuff and the L mount stuff, that is that have, particularly if they say APO or Summicron on them. Whew, man, those are some amazing, amazing lenses. Nah, I can delete. No, I don't want to delete them. I like to go back and read them sometimes. Uh, oh, there we go. You mean the 12 millimeter f2? Yeah, believe it or not, I sold my 12. Well, I didn't sell it, but I traded my 12 millimeter f2 so I could buy the 300 f4. And the 12 millimeter f2, you're right though. That lens was also excellent. I mean, just tack sharp. I never had one complaint with any of the images I ever took with that lens. But I really wanted the 300 f4 so bad that I said, I haven't used this 12 millimeter in a long time, because I used to use it a lot for vlogging, right? I put it onto my EM5 III, perfect vlogging setup. It's very small and compact, f2 wide aperture, super sharp, right? It's everything you'd want in a vlogging camera. And as a stills camera, as a stills lens, it was really amazing too. So yeah, no question, that's an excellent combination. Uh, but I just wanted the 300 f4, and I had to make a call. I said I gotta, I was trying to put together everything that I just like. I got rid of my 14 to 150, which I really liked, and I got rid of my 12 millimeter f2, and I think a 25 millimeter f1.7, the Panasonic, and I got rid of a camera, anyway. I traded a lot of like I traded in, probably double what I paid for. Anyway, I traded it in, and I do miss the lens, because it was really an excellent lens. I miss it a little, but what I do is I tell myself, I have the 12 to 32 from Panasonic, the kit lens, which is really good, and I have the I've been playing around with this. Remember the Olympus Air? I put the 12 to 32 because this lens has IBIS in it, or image stabilization, and I've been playing with my Olympus Air and the 12 to 32 from Panasonic because it has image stabilization on it. So the images are going to be a little sharper, less shake, right? And I put this on a tripod. Oh, I already took it off. I had it attached to this tripod, right? This little Manfrotto one. I had it on here. It's not bad. The only problem is when I push the button without a phone, it only records JPEGs. Um, so I need to use the phone app to actually capture RAWs with this Olympus Air. So we'll see. And the 17-1.8 is next. Yeah, it's a great lens. I I love mine. It was if you'd asked me like 3 or 4 months ago, one lens, one camera, and I've been saying this for years in the streams, Pen F and 17 millimeter. That that's still true, but I'm leaning towards the 25 these days. So it'd be a tough call. It's a tough call between the 17 and the 25, but I'm leaning 25 these days. I just like that perspective lately. Maybe I'm just bored with the 17. I don't know. I've been really enjoying 25 millimeter focal length, that 50 millimeter equivalent, right? There is a nifty 50 for the RF mount, and I think it's less than $200. And supposedly it's pretty decent. Oh, okay, Bailey, you got to head out. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. It's good to see you. Oh, here's a question I almost missed here. Never Ever Evil. How does the 20 millimeter f1.7 compare to the Ollie 1718, or would it be better to just get a 12 to 40 2.8? Well, it depends on what the intent of your photography is to say which one is best if you could only pick one. The 21.7, and well, let's talk about image quality across the board. All of them are excellent. I would probably give the 12 to 40 Pro the edge on all of those lenses. It's going to be the sharpest, but it's an f2.8, so it's a 1 1/3 stop slower, right? So if you're shooting in low light a lot, you want to get either the 20 or the 17. If you're just general photography out and about in a day, the 12 to 40, hands down, especially if you have an EM1 Mark II or 3 or the OM1, the 12 to 40 is like bread and butter, man. That thing is perfect with the EM1s and the OM1. On the other cameras, the Pens and the EM10 series, 12 to 40 to me is a little bit bulky. So I would lean more towards the 17-1.8. The 17-1.8, I would take that over the 20 1.7, primarily because it is faster at autofocusing and also works with video very well. It also is a better build quality, manual focus clutch. I mean, there's a lot of things in terms of workflow and using it in the field make it superior to the 20 millimeter f1.7. I believe the 21.7 is sharper than the 17-1.8 wide open. Don't quote me on that because I don't own the 20 1.7. But let's just say it's a tiny bit sharper, right? That's not the main drive to buy the 21.7. The main driving point for the 20 is the pancake size. Like I said, it's almost like a body cap lens. It's so small that it makes any camera you put it on portable practically, right? Very small, almost pocketable, particularly if you're using a pen. So if you want to take anywhere lens, 21.7. If you want a better lens, more versatile, right, with respect to being able to do stills and video and better performance and autofocus, the 17. And if you have an EM1 Mark, an EM1 or an OM1, I don't care what series, the 12 to 40 Pro, hands down, that's the lens to get. So that's the order I would go in. And that's what I mean. It just depends on why you want to get a lens. Do you want to, if each lens gives you some advantage over the other. The 20 is definitely size, and it's equally as sharp, if not sharper, than any of the other lenses. I don't know for a fact, but it's definitely no complaints on image quality from the 21.7. The 17, more versatile with autofocus and video. And then the 12 to 40, it's bulky. But if you have an EM1, that is bread and butter. That is a perfect combination. And I would say that trumps the stop of light that you lose for the versatility and the image quality that you get from a 12 to 40 trumps the size and weight when you're on an EM1. Because if you're shooting with an EM1, then it's designed to make holding larger lenses more comfortable, right? So a 12 to 40 is perfect. So that's that. Those are my thoughts. He did an awesome. Oh yeah, I saw that the black and white infrared. That was cool. And you do have a full spectrum camera, right? Yeah. You used to do that ghost hunting and stuff. And then Marcia. Hey, Marcia. Wow, you're still with us. Talking about good videos. Jimmy Chang just put out his biased review. I saw that with a wonderful tribute to his father. Yeah, that was a nice video. Very, very nice. Made me cry a little bit because, my father passed away about a year before his, maybe less than that. And I was very close with my father. Um, so it was emotional for me because I could relate to it directly, as many of you can, right? Because all of us are about the same age, so the chances of our fathers being alive at this point are 50-50, I think. Um, okay, this is a Panasonic Leica. It's a little bit too wide for me. I mean, I like it. I like the 17. The 17 is just, or the 15 is just a bit too wide for me. Uh, but that is amazing, amazing lens. The few reviews that I've seen on it are just stellar. Like this is probably the best Panasonic Leica prime that they make. From everything I've seen is probably their best, because they have a few, right? Most of them are zooms, but they have the 25, and then they have the 15. I don't know if they have any other ones. Maybe they're 42 prime. They have a 42 Monster Pro lens, but I don't know if that's a Leica branded one. But definitely the 15 is probably their sharpest lens ever. From what I know, like I don't own a lot of Panasonic lenses. I have a couple, three. I have three, right? 12 to 32, 7 to 14, 25 1.7. I have those three. All of them excellent lenses. Despite the 7 to 14 millimeter issues with flaring that I get a lot on my cameras, despite that, it's still an excellent lens. If you can keep the flaring down, you have to work around that, like move or not take some shots because you can't get the flaring out. But for 90% of my other shots, it is really good. This 12 to 32 pancake is better than the Olympus 14 to 42. This is a better lens in sharpness and contrast and everything. This is a better lens, despite its very minute size and poor build quality. Well, it's about the same as the regular. The 14 to 42 zoom power zoom lens is really good lens from Olympus, but this is better. Uh, anyway, thanks for reminding me. That is a great lens. If I was going to replace the 12 millimeter f2 from Olympus, it would be that lens. But it's not wide enough to replace the 12 millimeter, and it's too wide to replace my 17. I know I'm being very finicky, but if I'm going to drop $500-600 on a lens, it needs to be very I need to have a better reason than it's just because it's sharper or a little nicer. I need to have some specific reason. But yeah, because that's like $500 or $600, that lens. It's not cheap, but you would know, Lauren. Yeah, the 14 to 42 easy is very good lens. But I think this 12 to 32 is still better. Doesn't have the reach though, right? 42 millimeters is a big difference between 32 on the long end. But Yeah, this lens is really good. But I like the 14 to 42 easy. Okay, Lassie, we'll see you later. Thanks for joining in. You've been quiet the whole stream as far as I know. Yeah, the 35 to 100, if you're talking about the f2.8, excellent lens. Yes, George, I agree. That was definitely on my short list. Because I was debating that or the 40 to 150 from Olympus, right? And I think the 40 to 150 from Olympus, that extra reach is really nice, but man, it's a it's a bazooka in micro four third terms. It's a big ass lens. Whereas the 12 to 35 is man or 35 to 100 is manageable, right? Uh, that's something I could just put in my bag anytime if I was ever, unsure about what to take. It's like, well, just put it in the bag. It's no big deal, right? Even if I don't use it. But the 40 to 150, you have to be very intentional. I'm using this lens today, right? Because it's so big. I don't. It's like my 300 f4. I don't take that out just in case. If I take the 300 f4, I'm going out to shoot with the 300 f4, and I think the 40 to 150 because of its size is one of those lenses. Like when you take it to shoot it. You don't just take it just in case. You know, I just, let me bring this just in case I need to get a shot of something. No, not a 40 to 150 or 300 f4. Those are very intentional lenses. The 40 to 150 f4 Pro that they just released, that's one of those lenses like the 12 to like the 35 to 100. That's a lens like just in case I'll bring this along because it's not that big. But not and the 35 to 100, that could be like a just in case lens, right? Just in case I'll bring this, right? So I almost forgot about that lens, but that's another good one. Yeah. So Panasonic, just like Olympus, they make a lot of great lenses, uh, but they have some standouts, just like any manufacturer, right? The APO lenses from Leica, the um, the Otis lenses. I can't remember, but Zeiss has some excellent glass, right? There's a particular brand that they have, and Olympus, the Pro lenses, all of them excellent. And for Panasonic, it's going to be their Leica branded lenses are very good, excellent. Uh, and then everything else, like this 12 to 32, and um, all the lenses are really good because the inherent design of Micro Four Thirds makes them better lenses just by pure physics, right? Because the lens, the distance between the sensor and the lens itself, being mirrorless cameras in general, but Micro Four Thirds, they put a lot of thought into the format so that the flange distance is minimal, and the way the lenses focus the light, they can get a little bit straighter. But that's true for almost all mirrorless cameras now. But when Micro Four Thirds was new, man, that was like it just made those cameras so much sharper in a lot of respects than their counterparts. Oh, Tony, how are you? um, yeah, I never got into Luminar. It just every time they had the beta releases, and even on release, they were always so buggy for me. So I just avoided them. So the last few versions, I haven't even downloaded the trials because now that I have Photolab 5, I should do videos on Photolab 5 and Topaz. I've been really impressed with Topaz lately too. I wasn't that impressed initially, but now that I'm using it more, and the reason I'm using it more is because they Photolab 5 didn't support the OM1, so I had to use Topaz to do some of my post processing, and it's pretty impressive. And Lesipis is here, longtime viewer. Gosh, maybe since the beginning. Can photographers use other descriptor adjectives, etc., to convey the quality of image from a lens other than being sharp? All sharp lenses may not be equal. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole, there's a whole lot of qualities of a lens that lens reviewers talk about when they talk about the lenses. But, like there's chromatic aberration, right? Which is different than astigmatism, which is different than, what is it? The circular aberrations you get. I mean, when I look at a lens, and I can't say this is true for the earlier videos I've made that were sort of like lens reviews where I did comparisons between lenses. I was just doing very high level comparisons, like sharpness and depth of field, right? And in those comparisons, some of the one review I did on the 50 millimeter 0.95, I did look at corner sharpness and purple fringing and different sharpnesses at different apertures, right? So I got a little bit more detailed at that point more recently. But to talk about a lens's qualities beyond just sharpness is definitely an area that people should be talking about more, right? Because sharpness is not the end all be all of a lens. Sharpness across the frame is definitely very important, So when you're shooting wide open, is it sharp across the frame, not just in the center? How far do you have to stop it down before it actually is sharp corner to corner? Is there any vignetting in the lens, which is corrected in post-processing or in camera most of the time? But when you want to look at the native characteristics of the lens, you look at sharpness corner to corner, you look at vignetting, you look at barrel distortion, you look at chromatic aberrations, coma, circular aberrations, you look at the bokeh with respect, the background, the blurry parts of the image. You don't look at just how blurry and smooth and creamy it is, but you look at the speculars of the bokeh, and you try to see if you see onion rings or if you see other donut holes, or you look for a lot of different things which also represent the quality of the lens, not just because it may be more pleasing, but the actual manufacturing process of a lens shows up in the bokeh. If they didn't polish the lenses well, it'll show in the bokeh. It's not going to show so much in a tack sharp image that the lenses are not polished. But when you look at the bokeh and you look at the quality of the bokeh, you can see how well the lens was polished, particularly if it has a spherical glass in it. And what's the other things you look for? So I was talking about manufacturing, the process. You look at that. Oh yeah, reflections, right? And the coatings of the lens, which can contribute to color characteristics. Does the lens add any character to the color, meaning an imperfection to the color, right? Most coatings now do not, but it can happen. And so the coatings are very, very important with respect to reducing reflections inside the lens. And a lot of people like to think of it as on another level. What's the micro contrast of the lens? And the micro contrast or contrast of a lens in general is because it minimizes the reflections internally between the glass in the lens, right? Because a glass, a lens can have a dozen lens elements in it, more or less, right? 5 or 6 elements up to like 20, 30 elements in a single lens, depending on what it is. But, it'll have a dozen or so elements, and each element has to be coated so it's not reflecting light off each other as the light passes through. And then how well does it minimize the reflection off the sensor back through the lens? Because all that light hits the sensor reflects back some of that light, right? Because it's a glass, it has multi-layer glass on it. So how well does the anti-reflective coating on a sensor, if there is any, interact with the anti-reflective coatings on the lens elements? So flaring, right? So we look at flaring, which is an easy way to see how well the anti-reflective coatings in the lens is working and what kind of coatings they have. So there's all of that, and then there's the manufacturing of the lens itself. You have sample quality. If you have to buy a lens and return it 3 times, as I've heard in the chat section many times, not many times, but I've heard it a few times, right? And throughout the forums, so I've heard this many times throughout the 9 or 10 years I've been shooting. People will buy a lens, get a bad copy, send it back, get another one, send it back, like 3 times before they get a copy that is actually really good and meets the expectations they had for that lens. And a lot of times the quality the people that review the images or review the lenses, like Gordon Lang, and I'm sure others as well, but he comes to mind first, that they specifically state, my copy is doing this. So whether they really elaborate on that as much as they should is another question. But basically, they're telling you that lenses have sample variations, right? And the higher quality lenses, and I would assume the Olympus Pro lenses, have very little sample copy variation. If you buy a Pro lens, the manufacturing tolerances of a Pro lens from OM Systems, Olympus, is going to be extremely tight, so that you can feel pretty confident if someone else reviewed this lens and it's very sharp and has all the qualities you're looking for, when you buy one, it's going to meet those expectations. But when you buy a simple kit lens or consumer grade lens, I mean, that's not a flattering way to put it, right? But you buy a consumer grade lens, it would not be a surprise to find that you got a bad copy, because the manufacturing tolerances are not anywhere near the same as they are for pro lenses or expensive lenses, you would hope, right? So that's why, like, when Panasonic brands a lens with a Leica brand on it, I assume that means that the manufacturing process has to meet a certain minimum in terms of tolerances. So yeah, talking about lenses other than sharpness is a big conversation. I've only scratched the surface, right? So there's so much to lenses. I mean, ultimately, all we care about in a lens is, does the lens produce a sharp image onto the focal plane, right? Do all of the rays of light hit the focal plane at the same point? And if there's any variation, where does it happen? Does it happen at the corners, in the center, or is there variations in the focal plane? Like, I forget what that's called. But sometimes a lens is sharp in the corners, a little softer in the middle, and then sharp again in the center. There's a term for that, right? Where the lens is not sharp side to side, because sometimes the sharpness of a lens can vary, not just linear in a linear fashion where it's softer in the corners, but also in kind of a wavy pattern where it's soft in the middle, sharp in the center, sharp in the corners. Like weird things like that you rarely hear about anymore, but it happens. So I don't know if that answered your question. Are there other descriptive or adjectives to convey the quality of an image of a lens? So in terms of other descriptions, if you're looking for adjectives, I don't know, but in terms of descriptors, yes, there's definitely a lot. It's a much larger conversation to talk about lenses, because the fact that you have to stop a lens down to get its sharpest, to get the best image quality out of it, is another conversation, because all of a sudden, I bought this prime lens, but it's not sharp until I stop it down to f4. It's like, well, why did you waste all your money then, right? Uh, on that lens when you could have bought probably a kit lens that's just as sharp at f4. Um, I mean, I'm exaggerating. I'm trying to exaggerate the point here, but there's that conversation as well because some lenses, the very high end lenses, tend to be pretty sharp wide open. And then going from, say, their widest f1.2 to f4, the difference in sharpness corner to corner is very, very subtle. But there's a big improvement in terms of vignetting, right? And other characteristics other than sharpness that would make this lens better at f4 than at f1.2. Because yeah, somebody could say, yeah, this lens is very sharp wide open, but then, well, what about all these other characteristics, right? What about coma? What about, the chromatic aberrations, spherical aberrations, and how is the manufacturing process in terms of polishing for the bokeh? So there's so many things to talk about, and that's why I don't do lens reviews. Because I would feel like, I mean, I'll do a lens review when a manufacturer sends me a lens for free if I want that lens. I mean, I've turned down some. Can't remember which. I rarely turn down a lens review, but I don't get that many. Like, my God, everybody got the 7 Artisans recently. I forget what it is, the 50.95 from TT Artisans, I think. I didn't get no email about that because I'm not really a review channel so much, right? I'm more about, okay, let's look at this lens, but I'll review a lens if I need it or interested in it, or I think it might be of interest to the viewers. So that's why I got the 50.95 because I thought it'd be of interest to viewers because it was certainly interesting to me. I no longer have that lens. I sold it because if you watch the review I did on that lens, I was like, the 51.8 from Olympus from the 70s is good enough for me. I don't need 0.95, and the lens is a little bit soft, wide open at 0.95 anyway. So, wow, 15 minutes talking about lenses, and I didn't say anything. But hopefully that answered your question. Yeah, this is true also, right? It's always user error. I agree. Yeah, and this has been said many times, right? It's always the person behind the camera, not in front of the camera, that makes a difference. That makes the biggest difference in your photography. Have you noticed I haven't had my yes. I I still have my Star Trek mug, but uh now that it's summer, I don't like to drink hot coffee. I make iced coffee. So I use a much bigger glass with ice in it and make and brew it as iced coffee instead of into that little tiny mug, right? But I still have it. As it gets colder, like November, December, I'll be using that mug again. Maybe I need to get a Star Trek iced coffee mug. I'll look for one of those. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, Marshall. We were talking about Jimmy Chang's video. Yeah. Okay. Well, oh, Jose, you're still waiting. I know. I saw your comment the other day on one of my videos. Oh, that's brutal. Pretty girls in California. You would love the street photography. Yeah, the beach is great and the cars here are awesome. Yeah. I've been watching these Bushman videos that are in the UK. I was like, my God, the women there. I just can't believe you can dress like that in the street, you know? I just uh I think it was in Manchester. Now granted, I'm sure the cameraman who's recording these Bushman pranks are uh cherry picking the ones they show because you got to have a good reaction and uh and the cuter the girls the better, right, for views. um but I don't know, I just never see, maybe it's because the circle of people I go out with, I don't see women dressed like that in the street. uh Maybe California is different, you know. I mean, there's beautiful women everywhere, beautiful people, I should say, everywhere, but how they dress is not the same everywhere. Okay. Yeah, landscape work, you can take your time, and you have to take your time anyway. And if you're going to take your time, you might as well do the best you can, right? With landscapes. You've seen a thing or two here in the UK that would make my hair curl. I bet. I bet, man. It's just, I would just wait a minute. Because there's a lot of Bushman videos out there. They have here in the U.S. a Bushman guy. I think he's called the Texas Bushman. He's got some good reactions. But you can see the big difference in how people dress. And Texas is a hot state. Like, if you're going to dress down, that would be a place you could dress down, right? Because it's just so hot. But man, the UK is like, you see some people wearing fur coats and other people wearing just these like skimpy silk outfits. And I'm like, how is it that much warmer for this person or that much colder for that person on the same street at the same time? You know what I mean? I'm like, uh, I don't get it. I mean, just visually, I don't care. People can dress how they want. It's your money. You dress how you want. But uh, I just find it interesting to see the differences in that. But you can't live life through YouTube, right? You have to get out there on your own and take your own pictures and video and stuff. And that's something I need to do more of. I've been cooped up in this quote unquote my studio, cranking out these videos. Uh, that I need to go out and do a photo walk video or something. Of course, today it's like the worst day because it's like 90 degrees and probably 100% humidity. I don't know. So now it's too hot to really vlog. When the last few days have been awesome, but I've been sitting in here doing videos, talking myself hoarse. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I see that. I don't watch football, but I know what you're talking about. Football's in the winter time, right? And it's like, yeah, people are wearing no shirts. Yeah, the photo walks. I like doing them too. But they take a long time to make. They could take me a full 2 days to produce because I have to take the time to go do the photo walk, and then when I come back, I'm usually too tired to do the editing, so I do that the next day, and then I publish it. So I'm down basically 2 days when I do a vlog. But this week I decided, this last 2 weeks of June, whenever that first video came out, I tried to see if I could do something every single day on YouTube and build a little bit of momentum going into July in the summer, uh, for my channel's sake, not so much, um, not so much for myself because if I wanted to do everything for myself, I would be doing more vlogs, meaning stuff that I actually enjoy doing. Doing the tutorials and stuff, I do it for you guys mostly, right? So that and beginning photographers. But as a channel, I like to do the photo walks for myself, and I enjoy doing those. And that apparently that's coming through because a lot of people enjoy the photo walks. I get more views on that than the tutorials a lot of times. And your personality and your enthusiasm comes through in the videos. So if I'm not super enthusiastic when I'm doing a tutorial, but I am more so when I'm doing my vlogs, right? And that little bit of difference, and this goes back to the example like Thomas Heaton and a recent video by Thomas Heaton and Jimmy Chang. Their soul is in those videos, right? And they invoke an emotional reaction. So actually, I made a bunch of notes on making a vlog, but being able to I was thinking instead of just like I said, just like my tutorials where I just kind of sit down and turn the camera on, my vlogs are the same way. I get out of my car, I turn the camera on, and I just see what happens. So I was thinking I should maybe actually try and not script. I'm always unscripted, right? All of my videos. But I was thinking about maybe outlining something, a storyline or an ending that makes sense from where I started, so that the video is a little bit more interesting when there's a story. There's the typical story arc, right? You start out with this optimism, you run into challenges, you overcome those challenges, and now you're a better photographer at the end, right? I mean, there's all of these there's the standard story arc for doing videos and telling stories that if you watch all of the really good channels, they all follow this basic script, right? I mean, watch any story or almost any video by Thomas Heaton has that arc, right? He starts out, he said, I'm going out of my van today. I'm going to spend the night. I'm going to take some great pictures. And then he gets out in the field and he's like, ooh, I wasn't expecting that. He runs into some challenges, right? It's windy, it's raining, whatever. And then he overcomes that somehow, however, and gets this great image, right? And then he has this message that, he's learned that don't let these things bother you, or don't let these things get in the way of your photography. And this is what I've learned and how it's helped. It's, I mean, I don't think I'm giving away any secrets, right? This is all pretty common knowledge, at least in the creator community, in developing your YouTube videos and telling a story and connecting with your audience and all of that stuff. I don't know if I'm just too lazy to do those things, right? Like I said, I ain't hiking a mountain twice for B-roll, but at the same time, I got to think about, is it because I don't care about my viewers enough that I don't take the time to develop these storylines, or these uh, more adding more production value and entertainment value to my channel? Uh, is it you or is it me? Is it because I don't care about you, or is it because I'm too lazy? Or it's probably more along the lines I'm too lazy or too anxious to get something produced. I don't know. I got problems. That's why I buy gear, to distract me from all of my real problems. And I think that's the root of all gas. If you got gas, you got bigger problems somewhere in your life, maybe, at least for me. All right, I think I'm going to call it. Oh, yeah, clickbaity titles. Oh, Jimmy is here. Man, well, I can't leave now. You just got in. That's awesome. We were talking about you. Um, the video you just made, that was your unbiased review. And I talked, we've been chatting about that earlier, that was really an awesome video, and I think very emotional and connected with a lot of us. And I was telling him how it connected with me because my father passed away just shortly before yours. And we thought it was a beautiful tribute, in other words. So, man, that's awesome. Gas is good, huh? Your wallet can afford it. Yeah. Well, let's elaborate on what my wallet is. It's Visa, Mastercard, Discover, with very high credit limits, right? That are all maxed out, and my Best Buy card, all maxed out, uh, and my Amazon Prime card. That's what my wallet is. There's no actual cash, because any cash that comes in gets sucked in by the credit cards like a sponge. It's like, oh, I got like a $10 donation. It's gone just like that. Whew, man. Um, yeah, gas. And then Lauren has mentioned this a few times. He wants to see more of Ellie. She's sitting here. Um, she's been hanging out with me lately. I always worry when she's not out killing the groundhogs and stuff. You know, she sits right here next to me, and she's been very quiet, which has me worried because that's maybe she's just getting older, but she used to be 24/7. Let me out. Let me out. There's a fox or there's a gopher or groundhog or rabbit or cat that I need to kill. You know, they're in my yard, and it's murder, death, kill time. Oh, that's good news. The OM1 fern. That's awesome. You know, because that is, after the firmware 1.1, I was having no freezes at all. And like I said, I only had about 3 times it freeze on me out of about 100,000 pictures, right, that I took with Pro Capture and whatever. But after the firmware update, tens of thousands of images later, and again, all Pro Capture, high speed shutter stuff, no freezes. But when I was making my video, it's probably yesterday or the day before, it froze up on me. And I wasn't doing anything, right? I was just changing, I was just here in my studio changing a setting or something, and it froze up on me. Uh, the live view is still working, but none of the buttons were responsive. So I swapped, I removed the battery, put it back in, and it's been fine. So maybe the 1.2 is addressing that one little bug. If I haven't deleted it yet, I may still have the video recording when that happened, which might be helpful to Olympus. I don't know. I might have deleted it already because little glitches like that, I tend to forget. If it happens once in a blue moon, could be anything. But when I had it happen to me about 3 times in the first month or so that I had it, I was like, this needs to be fixed. And they did. But then this one is something different. Anyhow, I got to check that out. Okay, Marsha, we'll see you later. I appreciate you being here. I need to come down to Florida and see you sometime. Oh, I don't know what the firmware is myself. We can look. So, OM system, OM-1 firmware. It says the continuous autofocus. The continuous autofocus is improved for still image shooting. Stability of movie shooting is improved. Oh, who was asking about that was Adam Favre, because he was complaining a little bit about the image stabilization in movie mode. So what I told him at the time was to turn off the digital image stabilization and only use the optical or sensor stabilization, and he said that that worked. And but that said, the image stabilization, the digital image stabilization in the EM1 Mark III didn't have any issues like the OM1, according to Adam. I didn't notice it, but according to Adam, his EM1 Mark III digital stabilization was fine, but on the OM1 he was having issues. So I told him, I told him to turn off digital stabilization, and he said that worked. So maybe they're addressing that here. So I'll have to download that today and see. Because there's always other, like, a billion little fixes they put in, right? So you've heard it too. Okay. Yeah, I didn't notice it because I'm usually on a gimbal. I only use the all-in-one. I don't use it for vlogging and all that stuff. I use it for my paid work. Uh, so I'm on a gimbal and a dolly, and you know, so I just use the sensor shift only. I turn off the even on EM1 Mark III, I turned off. Actually, yeah, I turned off the digital stabilization because you get that sort of little bit of jerk when you're panning, right, left to right sometimes, and that's sometimes I need that part of the video for my paid stuff. So if I turned off the digital stabilization, I didn't have to worry about that at all. So I knew that everything from start to finish would be fine, and everything in the middle. So I did that even with the M1 Mark III, and that's why I suggested it for the OM1. But I didn't know, other than what you're saying and then what Adam told me last week about the image stabilization, digital image stabilization OM1 was different than EM1 Mark III. So maybe they've addressed it here. Time will tell. And then Jimmy says, I did a vlog some time ago on the OM1, and many were complaining that it's unwatchable due to the jello and shaky corners. Then a Japanese vlogger mentioned the same. And I think Adam, he runs uh, the Facebook group. He has a huge Facebook group for OMD or OM System Education. It used to be Olympus Education Group. You probably know him. Many of our viewers overlap, right? I mean, we all have a subset of each other's viewers on our channels, so you probably know him. Particularly Adam, because he, like I said, he has a big following on Facebook. Uh, yeah, I really like. Lauren was talking about the. um, you're holding it wrong. Remember that with the Apple phones, when if you held it a certain way, the signal dropped or something. Oh my God, Lauren. Lauren is something else. He always make me laugh. Um, yeah, you know the group. Okay, but not Adam. Yeah, Adam Favre. He drops in the live streams usually, but probably has a day job. I need to do my Sunday live streams again because it's harder for people on Thursdays, I assume, because they work unlike me. You know, in between photo jobs. I mean, I have one next week, but they're a little bit far and few between lately. So I had a lot of time to make videos this week. Yep, the EPM1. The EP1 is 12 megapixel, but makes nice photos. Yep. And use it with the grainy black and white. And Yeah, the EP5. Yeah, the EP5 is really good. Yeah, there's so many great cameras. You know, particularly the pen line, I thought was an excellent line with Olympus. It's a shame to see it not really carry on, and I get why, but I thought the pen line was an excellent line. But you know, the OMD is definitely, or the OM line now, but the OMD series was really their bread and butter. And then and now OM Systems, what did they start with? The flagship OM1. I guess they had the EP7, right? That sort of mini Pen F. I guess technically that was first, but I would say the OM1 was really the first camera from OM Systems, because that's not a small thing to take over, right? So they had to have a lot of input. Because the EP7, it was kind of too late. That thing was done, already branded and marketed, right? When OM Systems took over. But the OM1, even though it's already in development and probably almost done by the time OM Systems took over, OM System definitely had a heavy hand in the marketing, right, side of it. Maybe not so much the development side, because that's still all old Olympus guys, right? Not old Olympus guys, but most of the is carryover. But the OM Systems marketing, that is all OM Systems, you know, on the OM1. So they went for the wildlife photographers, right? And they're focusing on where the OM Systems uh, sort of niches or specialty is, you know, go anywhere, break free, travel light, and um, you know, durability, right? Weather sealing, all of those things in a compact form. And this is what OM Systems decided to market. So that suits wildlife photographers, right? Wildlife, birds in flight, etc. And then, you know, the rest of us, street photographers, portrait photographers, the rest of us, you know, who already are familiar with Olympus and know its capabilities, didn't have a problem. But for marketing, from a marketing standpoint, it doesn't seem like OM System is giving that even a second look, right, anymore. And I get it. You got to specialize or niche, whatever the rationale is. I'm not a marketing expert, but it was clear to me when I say, or what I mean when I say OM1 was really their first camera. I would say I have to include their first camera in terms of doing all of the marketing and effort and direction of OM Systems in general. The EP7, you know, the Pen F, the mini Pen F, that was an Olympus thing prior OM Systems. That, you know, the marketing, the development, everything was already done. And OM System, you know, you can't just change on a dime your marketing on a camera system. Uh, but yeah, anyway, I've kind of beat that point to death. Yeah, take my money, right? A Pen F2. What if the OM5 is a Pen F2? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? I mean, that I think they pushed the release date out to September, uh, or the announcement, whatever. We're not going to see it for a while, until after summer at least. Man, you know, a Pen F2, that would be painful. I would love it and I would buy it, but oh my God. I'd have to like, I would, man, I don't know what I would do. I don't know how I would buy it. I'd have to sell off something. Whew. Okay, this is the question. Do I sell a 300 millimeter f4 to buy a Pen F Mark II? I think I would do it. I don't know. That would be so stupid, but I think I could do it if that was my only choice. Because I love the Pen F so much, more than I love bird photography, and I love bird photography. But man, I don't know, what would you guys do? Hopefully, I'm not in that position and I can just buy it outright with minimal heartache financially, right? Because you know it's going to be like a $2,000 camera if they come out with it. And I would happily pay it if the quality and everything else is there, right? Because when the Pen F, the original Pen F came out, it was pricey for what on paper. When you look at the specs, it was very pricey, and it didn't get great reviews on the autofocus. But you know, nobody said anything bad about the design and how it looks and the build quality. What it got praised for was the build quality, right, and the design. And I have not met a person that said they hate the design, because some people are saying it's love it or hate it, and I was like, I have yet to meet a person that hates how the Pen F looks. I mean, it's a total ripoff of the older Leica films, but who cares? It's not just the look, but also the build quality. I mean, that thing, when you pick up that camera, that feels like it has some substance to it, and it's held up really well for me. And I've been shopping for a good mint condition Pen F, and I like the silver color. It's really hard to find. Uh, at a reasonable, yeah. If I want to pay double what I think it's worth, yeah, maybe. But I would pay almost what I paid for my original one. If I could find another Pen F for about $1,000, I think I would do it. You know, just to have one in beautiful condition. Uh, but I don't really have the means to do that, so I'm going to wait for the Mark II and save up for that if it ever comes. Yeah, Randy, the Pen F2 is take a gas in California, man. I know. Yeah, and Jimmy, man, Jimmy and I are on the same page. It's like that Pen F2. All right, this is a good question for Jimmy though. If you could only pick one, would it be the Pen F2 or the 150 to 400? If that was a life choice, like if you had to pick one and that had to be your sole item for life, like you never had the option to get the other one, what would you pick? I'm just curious because I know you talk about that 150 to 400. Yeah, it's the 150 to 400, like kind of the same way. Let us know in the chat. Oh yeah, the GX9. I know I've seen it for like 699, brand new with the lens, right? Ah, and it's funny you should bring this up, Lauren, because I have these Panasonic lenses, but I don't have any Micro Four Thirds Panasonic bodies. I used to have the GX85, but that I traded for my 300 f4 lens, right? You're so bad. You giving me gas now because that GX9, that is a sweet little camera, and you get the 12 to 60, which is a great lens. You I must have a big personal problem somewhere else in my life that's making me want to get this camera. Because, like I said, gas is just another way of, it's just a distraction from the real problems you have in your life. uh, I wonder. Uh, I have to think about it. I really, I need a new phone more than I need a camera. This phone, oh my God. Now that the weather's getting hot, this thing is, because I dropped this in the toilet once, and ever since then, it's been a little bit flaky. Uh, I mean, when you drop your phone in the toilet, if that's not a reason to go buy a new phone, I don't know what is. uh, I mean, it works 90% of the time if I don't turn it on and off too much. once I start turning it on and off, then yeah, it dies. Anyhow, GX9, you're killing me. Oh, maybe it was $799. I thought $699. But even $799, that's a killer deal for a GX9 and a lens. I'm with you. So let's see if Jimmy's still here, if he was able to answer that. Ah, you get the lens over a Pen F2. Okay, that's that's tough. That's like trying to choose one of your kids, right? If you could only keep one and you had to give another one to like your mom or something, I don't know. You had to give another one away. What would you which kid would you pick? It's painful, right? I mean, a 150 to 400 versus the Pen F2. I would definitely go Pen F2, but yeah, if I thought I could never get the 150 to 400 ever, that would just make it even more painful. So I understand. I'm not going to buy an iPhone. I need to get over my my Apple hate, but I get it. Oh, I mean, I'd probably double my subscribers if I got an iPhone, right? Because then I wouldn't be this weirdo with an Android phone. I feel like I'm in the minority now. Because I don't know anybody that has an Android phone. Well, one guy. I know one guy in my photo group. Jerry has a Galaxy S21, and what's his name? I'm thinking about a Pixel 6 because it's only $599. The Google Pixel 6. I mean, this phone is 4 years old now anyway, but I'm leaning towards a Pixel 6. Yeah, see, all of us are like we are not Apple people. Oh, the S22. Yeah, that's out of my budget. Ugh. I mean, I know they give these phones away for next to nothing when you get a contract, but I don't have any contract. I do the prepaid thing. So I only pay like $200 a year for my prepaid plan, which gives me unlimited calls and text, and then 4 gig of data. So I'm pretty content with that. I barely use 1 gig of data a month. I use so little data. So I got the smallest plan. $200 a year. That's taxes and everything included, right? Um, if you do the math and work out what a S22 costs, if they give that to you for free or for just very little money, and then you average out the payments you make on a regular plan, I think it works out about the same, right? Um, so if I were buying brand new phone, I might get a contract, right? Because ultimately the payments and the payment plan, the payments and they got you figured out. These companies, right? They get you coming or going. So I can save money by getting my own prepaid plan, but then I'm paying top dollar if I want to get a brand new phone. But I'm not buying brand new phones. I saw a Pixel 6 on eBay for $460, a used one, right? But supposedly in mint condition. I'm thinking $460, and that's a lot for a freaking phone in my eyes. I just can't picture spending 800, 900, $1,000 on a phone or more. Like I like that Samsung Flip. That is cool, but $1,000, yeah, that ain't happening. So I can get the Pixel 6 for $460, and I'm paying 200 a year for my plan. So that's it, right? So my first year theoretically would be $660. Let's say $700 my first year. including a year's worth of service, versus getting a contract and paying 700. I don't know, because they got these free iPhone offers, and I'm sure there's free Galaxy offers. And then I end up paying like $50 or $80 a month because I don't have a family plan, right? No family, so it would just be me. So it ain't good to be single in America. Let me tell you, you get dinged every which way but Sunday for being single. Yeah. I'm sorry, Jose. Yeah, that's how most people do it, right? They're already on a plan, and they got these trade-in values and yada yada. So you get a good new phone. I just don't have that luxury. It's not a luxury. I didn't make that choice. I chose to get a prepaid plan because I could go get a contract plan if I wanted. So my choice was to go prepaid and buy a used phone because it's just it's not as important to me, the phone, but it's got to work at least. And like I said, after you drop one in the toilet, I can't think of a better reason to buy another phone. Yeah, I'm waiting too. Yeah, but it's still, I haven't seen a plan for less than $50 a month for a single guy, right? To have any data. Ugh. So Randy, you got a plan. I have to look into it. Yeah, I could marry my dog and get a tax deduction. Ironically, I think that's been done before because they got caught. But I wonder how many times it's been done and nope, they never got caught. Roku, $14. Yeah, that's what I pay. $15 a month plus taxes is what I pay. But I get 4 gig of data. 1 gig's a little bit tight because I do hit that 1 gig limit every month. Sometimes I go over, sometimes it's under. 1 gig would be just a little bit too tight, so I'll pay $1 extra. And you've been on Verizon for 100 years, yeah. I know there's definitely perks to being on a plan with one of the major companies. There's definitely perks. I have to look into it. I mean, my sister put my mom on her plan for like an extra $25 a month or something. So, and my mom got a free phone, right, at the time. And it was time to upgrade. And my mom did not want to upgrade because now she knows how to use the phone she has, right? So they would have gave her another free phone, but she didn't want it. She's like, I'm gonna use the one I know how to use, and I totally get that. And she has a Galaxy S10, and they were gonna upgrade her to like an iPhone 13 or whatever the latest is for free, and she didn't want it. Yeah, it's getting late. I've been on for almost 3 hours, right? So I should probably call it. Oh, because now we're talking about cell phones. So not because we're talking about cell phones, just a 3 hour live stream. Man, that's a lot. So thanks for everybody joining me today. It was great seeing everyone. Great to see you here today, Jimmy. You're always welcome to come in. Um, and I will see you all guys in the next one. Thanks again for being here.